Hey guys, tonight we journey back to a world that would feel like stepping into an alien landscape, yet it's the same earth beneath our feet. A time when the morning mist carried no smoke from chimneys, when horizons stretched unbroken by walls or towers, when the only lights after dark were stars and the occasional flicker of a carefully tended fire. We're going back 10,000 years to 10,000 BCE to discover what life was like before the first cities ever existed. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Picture yourself waking not to an alarm clock, but to the gradual brightening of sky through whatever shelter you've managed to construct. Your bed isn't a mattress, but perhaps animal hides spread over gathered grasses, if you're fortunate enough to have killed recently. The air carries scents you'd never encounter today. The musk of wild herds passing nearby, smoke from fires that burn only wood and bone. The earthy smell of a world unmarked by human industry. You stretch and your body aches, not from a desk job, but from yesterday's hunt, from hours spent tracking deer through dense forest, from the constant vigilance required when every shadow might hide a predator and every sound could signal danger or opportunity. Your muscles are lean, hardened by a life where weakness means death, where every calorie must be earned through effort that would exhaust most modern humans. The archaeological evidence paints a picture both harsh and remarkable. These weren't the brutish cave dwellers of popular imagination, but sophisticated survivors who had developed complex strategies for thriving in a world that offered no safety nets, no grocery stores, no hospitals. They were us, genetically identical to modern humans, possessing the same capacity for love, fear, ingenuity, and hope, yet living in circumstances so different they might as well have inhabited another planet. Your family, if you can call it that, consists of perhaps 20 to 30 individuals. Not a nuclear family as we understand it, but an extended network of relatives, friends, and allies bound together by necessity and choice. Children belong to everyone and no one. Knowledge flows freely because hoarding information serves no purpose when survival depends on collective wisdom. The elderly are treasured repositories of memory, walking libraries who carry decades of accumulated understanding about weather patterns, animal behavior, and the subtle signs that mean the difference between feast and famine. Leadership isn't inherited or elected, but earned through demonstrated competence. The person who guides your group might be the best tracker, the most skilled toolmaker, or simply the one whose judgment has proven reliable in crisis after crisis. Authority is fluid, shifting based on circumstances. When hunting large game, you follow the expert hunter. When seeking shelter from storms, you listen to whoever best understands the landscape. When someone falls ill, you turn to the healer who knows which plants ease pain and which ones kill. Your day begins with assessment. What does the sky promise? Are those clouds bringing rain that will wash away tracks and scatter game? Or will they pass harmlessly overhead? The wind carries information that your heightened senses can read like a newspaper. The scent of water means a stream lies in that direction. The smell of decay suggests carrion, which might attract scavengers worth hunting or avoiding. The musk of large herbivores indicates herds have passed recently, leaving trails you could follow to fresh hunting grounds. Food dominates your thoughts in ways modern humans struggle to comprehend. Not because you're constantly starving. Archaeological evidence suggests that many hunter-gatherer groups actually ate quite well, but because every meal represents a complex chain of decisions, risks, and efforts. That handful of berries required knowing which varieties are safe, which are poisonous, heinous enough to justify which are nutrient the energy spent gathering them. The roots your companions are digging demanded understanding of seasonal cycles, soil conditions, and the careful techniques needed to harvest without destroying next year's crop. Meat, when you can get it, provides not just sustenance, but materials for countless other needs. The hide becomes clothing, shelter, containers, and rope. The bones become tools, needles, and weapons. The sinew becomes thread and bowstring. Even the blood serves purposes, mixed with plant materials to create adhesives or preservatives. Nothing is wasted because waste is a luxury you cannot afford. Your tools are extensions of your body, crafted with a precision and understanding that would impress modern engineers. That stone knife didn't just happen. Someone spent hours selecting the right type of rock, understanding its grain and how it would fracture, then carefully chipping away flakes to create an edge sharper than many modern steel blades. The wooden spear represents knowledge of tree species, wood grain, and the physics of leverage and momentum. Every tool is personal, shaped by the hands that made it, worn smooth by constant use, repaired and modified countless times. The landscape around you teems with life in ways that would astound modern observers. Herds of mammoth, their tusks gleaming in the morning light, thunder across grasslands that stretch beyond the horizon. Giant cave bears lumber through forests so dense they seem to swallow sunlight. Saber-toothed cats prowl territories unmarked by human boundaries, their presence announced by tracks that send children scrambling closer to their elders. Yet you are not helpless prey in this dangerous world. Humans have already begun their slow but inexorable conquest of the planet, not through overwhelming force, but through intelligence, cooperation, and adaptability. You carry fire, that revolutionary technology that extends the day, keeps predators at bay, and transforms inedible plants into nourishing meals. You possess language, allowing your group to share complex information, coordinate elaborate hunts, and pass down accumulated wisdom. Most importantly, you can think beyond the immediate moment, planning for seasons ahead, imagining solutions to problems not yet encountered. Your clothing, when you wear any, is functional art. Every stitch represents hours of careful work. Every decoration carries meaning. That pattern stitched into your hide tunic might identify your family group, commemorate a successful hunt, or invoke protection from spiritual forces. The bone beads around your neck aren't mere ornamentation, but markers of status, achievements, or allegiances. In a world without writing, clothing becomes a form of communication, telling stories about who you are and where you belong. Shelter is wherever you make it. Sometimes that means caves, natural formations that offer protection from weather and predators, their walls already decorated with the art of previous occupants. Other times, you construct temporary dwellings from whatever materials the landscape provides. Branches and hides, stones and mud, even mammoth bones arranged in careful patterns to support coverings of skin and fur. These aren't primitive hovels, but sophisticated structures designed by people who understand wind patterns, drainage, and insulation principles that modern architects spend years learning. The rhythm of your life follows natural cycles in ways that seem almost magical to modern sensibilities. Your body clock synchronizes with sunrise and sunset, not because you lack artificial lighting, but because fighting natural rhythms wastes precious energy. Seasonal changes aren't inconveniences to be overcome with technology, but fundamental shifts that require different strategies, different foods, different behaviors. Winter means drawing together for warmth and surviving on stored resources. Spring means renewal, new growth, and the return of migrating herds. Summer brings abundance, but also the urgent need to prepare for harder times ahead. Social relationships operate according to rules both simpler and more complex than modern equivalents. Marriage, if it exists as a concept at all, is less about romance and more about practical partnerships for survival and child rearing. Sexual relationships are more fluid, less constrained by the rigid structures that would emerge with agriculture and property ownership. Children learn not through formal education, but through constant observation and participation, absorbing survival skills as naturally as they learn to walk and talk. Conflict exists, but not as we might expect. Warfare as an organized activity hasn't yet emerged because there's little worth fighting over that can't be obtained more efficiently through trade, migration, or cooperation. Violence, when it occurs, is usually personal, immediate, and resolved quickly because small groups can't afford to lose members to prolonged feuding. Justice is swift and pragmatic, focused more on restoring balance than punishing wrongdoers. Your understanding of the world blends careful observation with spiritual interpretation in ways that would puzzle modern scientists, but made perfect sense in a world where the line between natural and supernatural remained blurred. That unusual weather pattern might result from atmospheric conditions, but it also carries messages from ancestors or spirits. The migration routes of animals follow ecological principles, but they also reflect the invisible currents of a world alive with consciousness and intention. Death, when it comes, is both more immediate and more integrated into daily life than modern humans experience. People die from injuries that today would require minor medical intervention, from illnesses that antibiotics could cure, from accidents that safety regulations would prevent. Yet death isn't hidden away in hospitals and funeral homes, but remains part of the natural cycle, observed, mourned, and accepted with a stoicism born of necessity. The dead receive care that reveals the depth of human compassion even in this harsh world. Bodies are arranged with deliberate ceremony, surrounded by tools they used in life, adorned with ornaments that marked their identity, positioned to face directions that hold spiritual significance. These aren't random gestures, but evidence of beliefs about what comes after, of love that extends beyond the final breath, of communities that honor their members even in death. Your spiritual life weaves through every aspect of existence like threads in a tapestry you can't see but always feel. The hunt begins with rituals that acknowledge the animals you hope to kill, asking permission from forces you can sense but not name. The gathering of plants involves ceremonies that ensure the spirits of growth won't withdraw their gifts. Even the making of tools carries sacred weight, transforming raw stone and wood into objects that bridge the physical and metaphysical worlds. Art isn't separate from survival, but integral to it. Those cave paintings aren't primitive doodles, but sophisticated attempts to capture and control the essence of the animals you hunt. To teach how hunting strategies to children who can't yet hold spears. To communicate with the spirits that govern success and failure. Your hands, stained with ochre and charcoal, create images that will outlast your bones, speaking across millennia to descendants you can't imagine. Music emerges from the rhythm of daily tasks. The steady beat of stone on stone while making tools becomes percussion. The whistle of wind through bone flutes provides melody. Voices join together in chants that synchronize group activities, tell stories, and invoke the unseen forces that shape your world. These songs carry information disguised as entertainment, embedding crucial survival knowledge in memorable patterns that outlive individual singers. Your memory serves functions that would stagger modern minds. Without writing, you must carry entire libraries of information in your head, the location of every water source within days of travel, the seasonal behavior of dozens of animal species, the properties of hundreds of plants, the genealogies that determine kinship obligations, the stories that encode your group's history and values. Your brain, pressured by necessity, develops capabilities that seem almost superhuman to people who rely on external storage for information. Navigation through trackless wilderness requires skills that satellite technology has rendered nearly extinct. You read the landscape like text, noting the angle of sunlight, the patterns of vegetation, the subtle variations in terrain that mark familiar territory. Stars become a celestial map, their positions revealing both direction and season. Even the behavior of birds provides navigational clues, their flight patterns indicating weather changes, water sources, and the presence of predators or prey. Trade networks stretch across continents through chains of exchange that operate without currency or contracts. That obsidian blade in your hand might have traveled hundreds of miles, passed from group to group through relationships of mutual obligation and trust. The shells adorning your clothing originated near distant oceans, carried inland by traders who valued beauty alongside utility. These networks spread more than goods. They carry ideas, technologies, and genetic diversity that prevent isolation from becoming stagnation. Your relationship with animals transcends the simple predator-prey dynamic that modern people imagine. You study their behavior with scientific precision, learning to think like the creatures you hunt, to predict their movements, to understand their fears and desires. Some animals become partners rather than prey. Dogs, still half wolf, join your hunts in exchange for food and protection. Their superior senses complement your intelligence, creating hunting partnerships that benefit both species. The changing seasons bring transformations that reshape your entire existence. Winter isn't just cold weather, but a fundamental alteration of the world's character. Food sources disappear or become inaccessible. Travel becomes dangerous or impossible. Your group draws together into tight quarters where every personality quirk and social tension becomes magnified. Survival depends not just on stored resources, but on your ability to maintain harmony when stress threatens to tear the community apart. Spring arrives like resurrection, bringing not just warmer weather, but psychological renewal that lifts spirits burdened by winter's hardships. New plant growth provides fresh food after months of preserved rations. Melting ice opens travel routes that winter had closed. Animals emerge from hibernation or return from migrations, offering opportunities for successful hunts. Your body responds to lengthening days with increased energy and optimism that feels almost chemical in its intensity. Summer represents abundance, but also urgent preparation. The long days allow extended activities, hunting expeditions that would be impossible in winter's brief daylight. Plants reach peak nutritional value, providing opportunities to gather foods that must be preserved for leaner times. Your group spreads out across the landscape, following resources that summer makes accessible, but always with awareness that this bounty is temporary. Autumn brings the year's most critical decisions. Which routes will remain passable when snow falls? Where will game concentrate when harsh weather limits their movement? What foods can be preserved, and how much storage will winter require? Mistakes made during autumn's preparations echo through the cold months ahead, potentially determining who survives until spring returns. Your tools evolve constantly through use and modification. That spear point, chipped and resharpened countless times, bears the accumulated wisdom of every hunt where it proved inadequate. The wooden handle, worn smooth by your grip, has been adjusted and readjusted to match your changing strength and skill. Tools aren't mass-produced objects, but extensions of your body and mind, shaped by experience into forms perfectly suited to their purposes. Food preservation occupies enormous portions of your time and attention. Meat must be dried, smoked, or frozen before it spoils. Plants require processing to remove toxins or increase nutritional value. Fat, precious, and calorie-dense, needs careful rendering and storage. Salt, when you can find it, becomes more valuable than gold for its preservation properties. Every successful hunt or gathering expedition immediately triggers complex calculations about processing, storage, and distribution. The night transforms your world in ways that electric lighting has made nearly incomprehensible to modern minds. Darkness doesn't just hide dangers, it fundamentally alters the character of existence. Sounds become magnified and mysterious. Familiar landmarks disappear into shadow, making navigation treacherous. Predators gain advantages that force your group to cluster around fires, trading mobility for security until dawn returns. Your children learn through observation and participation rather than formal instruction. They absorb survival skills by watching, mimicking, and gradually taking on real responsibilities as their competence grows. Play serves educational functions with games that teach hunting techniques, plant identification, and social cooperation disguised as entertainment. By adolescence, they possess practical knowledge that would challenge modern survival experts. Gender roles exist, but remain more fluid than later agricultural societies would impose. Women often participate in hunts, especially those requiring endurance rather than strength. Men gather plants and care for children when circumstances demand it. Survival trumps social conventions, and competence matters more than conformity to rigid expectations about what each sex should or shouldn't do. Your language carries concepts and distinctions that would bewilder modern speakers. Dozens of words describe subtle variations in snow conditions that determine travel safety. Plant names encode information about preparation methods, seasonal availability, and medicinal properties. Animal terminology reflects behavioral observation so detailed they read like scientific papers disguised as vocabulary lists. Time flows differently in a world without clocks or calendars. Events are remembered by their relationship to natural phenomena, seasonal changes, or significant happenings, rather than abstract numerical systems. Your temporal awareness focuses on practical cycles, the migration patterns of prey animals, the ripening schedules of edible plants, the weather signs that predict storms or clear skies days in advance. Territory isn't marked by fences or legal documents, but by intimate knowledge of every rock, stream, and tree within your range. You know which caves provide the best shelter when storms approach from the north, which valleys trap cold air that can kill the unwary, which ridges offer views that reveal approaching weather days before it arrives. This knowledge isn't written down, but lives in your memory, passed down through stories that embed practical information in memorable narratives. Your group's territory overlaps with others in complex patterns that shift with seasons and circumstances. Winter might force multiple bands to share resources in sheltered valleys, creating temporary alliances based on kinship and mutual need. Summer's abundance allows for dispersal across wider ranges, reducing competition and preventing overuse of any single area. These movements aren't random wandering, but carefully choreographed migrations that maximize survival while minimizing conflict. Water dictates everything, not just the obvious need for drinking, but the complex web of life that water supports or denies. Rivers provide transportation routes, fishing opportunities, and the promise of game coming to drink. Springs offer reliable resources worth defending or sharing, depending on their abundance. Seasonal streams create temporary advantages that disappear with changing weather. Your mental map centers on water sources like a constellation of life in an otherwise hostile landscape. Fire represents humanity's first great technological revolution, though you take it for granted as naturally as breathing. The ability to create and control flame separates you from every other species, extending your active hours beyond sunset, transforming inedible plants into nutritious meals, and providing protection from predators that fear the dancing light. Yet fire demands constant attention, fuel gathering, and careful management. A carelessly tended flame could destroy everything you own or leave you shivering in darkness when temperatures plummet. The making of fire involves rituals that blend practical technique with spiritual significance. The careful selection of tinder, the patient coaxing of sparks into flame, the feeding of fuel to maintain the precious glow. Each step requires knowledge passed down through generations, understanding of wood types, weather conditions, and the subtle signs that predict success or failure. Firemaking isn't just a skill, but an art form that separates competent survivors from those who perish in the cold. Your understanding of weather surpasses anything modern meteorology could provide for your immediate needs. Cloud formations speak to you with clarity that would amaze contemporary forecasters. Wind patterns carry information about approaching storms, temperature changes, and precipitation that affects every aspect of your survival strategy. You read the sky like text, interpreting messages written in vapor and pressure that determine whether tomorrow brings opportunity or disaster. Animal behavior provides another layer of environmental intelligence that guides your decisions. Birds that fly in unusual patterns signal approaching weather changes before any other indicators appear. Mammals that alter their feeding schedules or movement routes warn of predators, storms, or other threats your senses haven't yet detected. Insects that swarm or disappear reveal subtle environmental shifts that precede major changes in conditions. Your body serves as a sophisticated instrument calibrated to detect environmental changes that modern humans have forgotten how to sense. Joints that ache before storms, skin that tingles when humidity rises, subtle shifts in energy levels that correlate with barometric pressure. These aren't superstitions, but physiological responses that evolution has fine-tuned over millions of years, providing early warning systems that technology hasn't yet matched. Plant knowledge extends far beyond simple identification into complex understanding of ecological relationships, seasonal cycles, and preparation techniques that transform toxic materials into life-sustaining resources. That root that would poison you when fresh becomes nutritious when properly processed through methods your ancestors perfected through dangerous trial and error. Leaves that taste bitter in spring develop different properties as summer progresses, requiring timing precision that mistakes can prove fatal. Medicine and magic interweave so completely that attempting to separate them would miss the point entirely. The herbs that ease pain also carry spiritual significance that enhances their effectiveness through belief and ritual. Healing involves not just the correct plant preparations, but the proper ceremonies, the right words, the appropriate offerings to whatever forces govern recovery and illness. Your healers are simultaneously scientists and priests, combining empirical observation with metaphysical understanding. Pain is a constant companion that modern pain management has made nearly extinct from human experience. The ache of overworked muscles, the throb of injuries that would heal imperfectly without surgical intervention, the gnawing hunger that comes between successful hunts or seasonal food shortages. Yet this pain isn't meaningless suffering, but information that guides your behavior, teaching caution, building endurance, and creating appreciation for relief when it comes. Your senses operate at levels of acuity that civilization has dulled through disuse. Eyes that can spot movement at distances where modern vision would see only landscape. Ears that distinguish between the footsteps of different animal species, the approach of weather systems, the subtle sounds that indicate water or danger. Noses that detect scents carrying information about animal health, plant readiness, or the presence of predators hours after they've passed. Social harmony becomes a survival requirement. When your group is too small to afford internal conflict and too isolated to replace lost members easily. Disagreements must be resolved quickly before they fester into divisions that could destroy the community. Leadership skills develop naturally in those who can mediate disputes, coordinate activities, and make decisions that balance individual needs against group survival. Stories serve functions that entertainment has obscured in modern contexts. The tales told around evening fires aren't just diversions, but educational tools that preserve crucial survival information in memorable forms. Navigation instructions disguised as adventures, plant identification embedded in myths, weather prediction hidden within legends. Your oral traditions function as libraries, textbooks, and databases, all rolled into narrative packages that survive because they engage emotions alongside intellect. Children represent both the future and an enormous investment of resources that must be protected at all costs. Their survival determines whether your group's accumulated knowledge and genetic heritage continue or disappear forever. Child rearing involves the entire community because no single individual possesses all the skills necessary to prepare young people for the challenges they'll face. Everyone contributes to education, protection, and nurturing according to their abilities and knowledge. Pregnancy and childbirth occur without medical intervention, supported only by the accumulated wisdom of generations and the careful attention of experienced women. Survival rates reflect this reality, with infant mortality claiming many babies despite the best care available. Those children who survive the vulnerable early years develop resilience and capabilities that modern protected childhoods rarely produce. Old age, when achieved, brings tremendous respect because reaching advanced years proves exceptional competence, luck, or both. Elders carry irreplaceable knowledge about rare events, unusual weather patterns, and survival strategies tested through decades of experience. Their memories span cycles too long for younger people to have witnessed, providing perspectives that could mean the difference between life and death when unusual circumstances arise. Death strikes with randomness that makes every day precious and uncertain. Accidents that modern safety equipment would prevent, infections that antibiotics would cure, complications that surgical intervention would resolve. The constant presence of mortality shapes your worldview, creating urgency about present moments and acceptance of loss that contemporary grief counseling struggles to restore. Your spiritual beliefs emerge from direct experience with forces beyond human control rather than abstract theological concepts. The power that brings rain when drought threatens, the intelligence that guides animal migrations, the energy that makes plants grow and seasons change. These aren't distant deities, but immediate presences that interact with your daily existence in ways both helpful and dangerous. Rituals develop around activities where success or failure carries life or death consequences. The hunt begins with ceremonies that acknowledge the spirits of animals you hope to kill, asking permission and promising respect for their sacrifice. Plant gathering involves rituals that ensure continued abundance, recognizing the reciprocal relationship between humans and the natural world that sustains them. Art serves practical purposes disguised as aesthetic expression. Cave paintings that teach hunting techniques to children, decorative patterns that identify tribal affiliations, symbolic designs that invoke spiritual protection. Beauty and utility merge so completely that separating them would miss their essential nature. Every artistic creation serves multiple functions, combining information storage, cultural identity, and spiritual practice. Music emerges naturally from the rhythms of daily activities, work songs that coordinate group efforts, hunting chants that synchronize movements, ceremonial songs that invoke spiritual assistance. Your voice becomes an instrument that binds the community together, creates shared emotional experiences, and preserves cultural information in memorable melodic forms. Memory techniques develop to extraordinary levels when survival depends on accurate information storage and retrieval. Mental maps that record the locations of resources across vast territories, genealogies that track kinship relationships essential for social organization, seasonal calendars that predict the timing of crucial events. Your brain functions as a sophisticated database optimized for survival-relevant information. Trade relationships extend across continents through networks of reciprocal obligation and trust that operate without written contracts or legal enforcement. The exotic materials that reach your group carry stories of their origins, the people who gathered or crafted them, the journeys they've taken through chains of exchange. These trade goods represent more than mere objects but connections to distant communities and access to resources unavailable in your immediate territory. Technology develops through incremental improvements that accumulate over generations, each innovation building on previous discoveries. The spear thrower that increases hunting range, the needle that enables better clothing construction, the fish hook that expands dietary options. These aren't sudden inventions, but gradual refinements that emerge from countless individual experiments and modifications. Your relationship with the landscape transcends simple utilitarian exploitation to become a complex partnership based on mutual dependence. You shape the environment through controlled burning, selective harvesting, and wildlife management, while the land shapes you through the resources it provides and the challenges it presents. This isn't primitive environmental harmony, but sophisticated ecological management that maintains sustainable relationships. The future exists only in terms of seasonal cycles and generational continuity. Planning extends to the next migration, the coming winter, the training of children who will carry on your group's survival strategies. Long-term thinking focuses on maintaining the knowledge and relationships that ensure continuity rather than accumulating material wealth or building permanent structures. Your nights unfold under skies so brilliant with stars that modern city dwellers would mistake them for hallucinations. The Milky Way stretches overhead like a river of light, so vivid you could navigate by its glow alone. Without electric interference, the heavens reveal themselves in their full glory, a celestial dome where every pinprick of light carries meaning. These aren't just pretty decorations, but a navigation system more reliable than any compass, a calendar more accurate than any written record, a clock that never needs winding. Sleep comes differently in this world without walls or doors. You don't retreat to private chambers, but settle wherever the day's journey ends, your body pressed against earth that still holds the day's warmth or radiates winter's chill. The sounds that lull you to sleep aren't traffic or air conditioning, but the whisper of wind through grass, the distant howl of wolves claiming territory, the crack of cooling wood in your carefully banked fire. Every sound carries information. That rustling in nearby bushes could be a harmless rodent or a predator, testing your defenses. Dreams blend with reality in ways that would disturb modern minds accustomed to clear boundaries between sleeping and waking consciousness. The images that visit your rest aren't random neural firing, but messages from ancestors, warnings about tomorrow's hunt, visions of distant relatives whose welfare affects your own survival. Your sleeping mind processes the day's observations, weaving them into narratives that guide future decisions. That dream of following deer tracks to water might represent your subconscious synthesis of subtle environmental clues, noticed but not consciously analyzed. The transition between seasons doesn't just change the weather, but transforms your entire identity. Winter, you becomes a different person than summer you, adapted to different challenges, focused on different priorities, even thinking different thoughts. Your body changes too, building fat reserves when abundance allows, burning through stored energy when resources grow scarce, developing calluses and muscles that reflect the season's demands. This isn't just physical adaptation, but psychological flexibility that allows complete lifestyle transformations multiple times per year. Hunger shapes your consciousness in ways that intermittent fasting barely approximates. Not the comfortable hunger of skipping breakfast, but the gnawing awareness that your next meal depends entirely on your skill, luck, and the cooperation of forces beyond your control. This hunger sharpens your senses, focuses your attention, and strips away everything non-essential from your thinking. When food appears, the relief and gratitude transcend anything modern abundance can produce. Your tools become extensions of your identity, shaped by your hands and shaped by theirs in return. That stone knife isn't just sharp metal, but accumulated knowledge about pressure angles, material properties, and cutting techniques refined through countless uses. The wooden handle bears the impression of your grip, worn smooth in places where your fingers naturally rest, rough where usage patterns create friction. These tools carry your personal signature as clearly as fingerprints, making them uniquely yours in ways that mass production has rendered impossible. Territory exists in your mind as detailed maps, more accurate than any satellite imagery. Every ridge and valley, every stream and meadow, every grove and rocky outcrop occupies a specific location in your mental geography. You know which paths remain passable when others flood, which caves provide shelter from different wind directions, which clearings attract game at various seasons. This knowledge isn't abstract information, but lived experience accumulated through years of careful observation and sometimes painful mistakes. The concept of privacy as modern humans understand it simply doesn't exist. Your thoughts, emotions, and bodily functions unfold in full view of your companions because survival demands transparency and cooperation. Secrets become dangerous luxuries when everyone's life depends on knowing what others are thinking, feeling, and planning. This creates intimacy levels that would overwhelm contemporary people accustomed to psychological barriers and personal space. Language carries information density that modern speech has diluted through abundance of words. Every utterance must convey maximum meaning because communication opportunities are limited and precision can determine survival outcomes. Your vocabulary includes subtle distinctions that English lacks entirely. Words that describe specific snow conditions, particular types of animal behavior, or precise stages of plant growth that affect their usefulness. These aren't just labels, but compressed survival manuals embedded in everyday speech. Illness arrives without warning systems or safety nets, transforming robust health into life-threatening vulnerability within hours. That fever could be a minor inconvenience that passes quickly, or the beginning of a death sentence that no amount of plant medicine can reverse. Your body's response to injury or infection determines not just your comfort, but your group's survival. Since losing members to preventable problems threatens everyone's future prospect. Healing involves your entire community because individual recovery affects collective welfare. Everyone contributes knowledge, effort, and resources to restore health because your group cannot afford to lose accumulated skills and relationships that each person represents. The healing process becomes a community project that strengthens social bonds while addressing medical needs, creating support networks that modern healthcare systems struggle to replicate. Pain teaches lessons that modern pain management has obscured beneath pharmaceutical interventions. That ache in your knee reminds you about yesterday's misstep on rocky terrain, teaching caution that prevents future injuries. The burn from carelessly handled fire creates lasting awareness that keeps your fingers away from flames. Pain becomes education rather than just unpleasant sensation, encoding survival wisdom directly into your nervous system. Your memory operates like a sophisticated filing system optimized for survival-relevant information. Details about animal behavior, plant properties, weather patterns, and human relationships receive priority storage while irrelevant information fades quickly. This isn't poor memory, but efficient allocation of limited cognitive resources toward data that affects your continued existence. Music serves functions beyond entertainment, creating shared emotional experiences that bind your group together during both celebration and crisis. Those rhythmic chants that accompany tool-making sessions synchronize individual efforts into coordinated group activities. The songs that mark seasonal transitions help everyone adjust psychologically to changing circumstances. Victory songs after successful hunts create collective joy that strengthen social bonds essential for future cooperation. Death visits regularly enough that you develop relationships with mortality unknown to modern minds, sheltered by medical intervention and safety regulations. You've seen death arrive suddenly through accident or violence, slowly through illness or injury, peacefully through age or exhaustion. These experiences shape your worldview in ways that create both acceptance of loss and fierce appreciation for continued life. Grief follows patterns that lack modern therapeutic intervention, but possess communal support systems that contemporary bereavement counseling attempts to recreate. Your entire group shares the loss because everyone depended on the deceased person's contributions to collective survival. Mourning becomes a community process that honors the dead while reorganizing social structures to compensate for their absence. Sacred spaces aren't built but discovered. Natural formations that inspire awe and provide settings for important ceremonies. That cave where your ancestors painted images of successful hunts. That ridge where weather patterns become visible days before they arrive. That spring that never fails to provide clean water. These locations acquire spiritual significance through their practical importance to your group's survival. Ritual develops around activities where success or failure carries consequences too important to leave to chance alone. The ceremonies that precede major hunts, the blessings that mark seasonal transitions, the rites that welcome new members or commemorate the dead. These aren't superstitious behaviors, but psychological techniques that prepare minds and coordinate group efforts around crucial activities. Your connection to the natural world operates at levels of intimacy that modern environmental awareness rarely achieves. You don't just live in nature, but participate in ecological relationships so complex that distinguishing between human and natural becomes meaningless. Your presence affects animal behavior, plant growth, and environmental conditions, while these forces simultaneously shape your thoughts, emotions, and physical development. Change arrives slowly enough that adaptation feels natural rather than disruptive. New techniques develop gradually through experimentation and refinement. Social relationships evolve through small adjustments rather than dramatic restructuring. Environmental shifts occur over time frames that allow responsive modifications to lifestyle and strategy. This creates stability that rapid modern change has disrupted, allowing deep adaptation to specific conditions rather than constant adjustment to unpredictable circumstances. Cooperation extends beyond your immediate group through networks of mutual obligation that span vast distances and multiple generations. Those trading relationships that bring exotic materials also create alliances that provide refuge during disasters, information about distant conditions, and genetic diversity that prevents inbreeding. Your survival depends not just on your own group's capabilities, but on maintaining positive relationships with neighbors whose territories you might need to traverse or share. Competition exists, but operates according to rules that prevent destructive conflict, while encouraging excellence and innovation. Hunting skills, tool-making abilities, and leadership qualities are compared and celebrated without creating permanent hierarchies or social divisions. This competitive cooperation pushes everyone toward higher performance levels, while maintaining group cohesion essential for collective survival. Knowledge flows freely because hoarding information serves no survival purpose when everyone's welfare depends on shared competence. The expert tracker teaches others not from altruism, but from practical recognition that additional skilled hunters improve everyone's chances of eating regularly. Technical innovation spread quickly because improvements in anyone's capabilities benefit the entire community through increased productivity and reduced risk. Your relationship with time reflects natural cycles rather than artificial schedules imposed by mechanical devices. Days begin when light permits useful activity and end when darkness makes continued work dangerous or impossible. Seasonal rhythms govern long-term planning, while immediate circumstances determine short-term decisions. This creates temporal awareness that synchronizes with environmental reality, rather than fighting against natural patterns. The future exists as possibility rather than planned outcome, shaped by decisions made in response to changing circumstances rather than predetermined goals pursued regardless of conditions. You prepare for likely scenarios while maintaining flexibility to adapt when reality diverges from expectations. This creates resilience that rigid planning cannot match, allowing survival through unpredictable challenges that would defeat more structured approaches. And so, we return from that distant world, carrying with us the echo of lives lived so differently from our own. You've walked alongside humans who faced each dawn not knowing if they would see another sunset, who found beauty in the spark of flint against stone, who measured wealth not in gold, but in knowledge passed from elder to child around flickering fires. These weren't primitive beings stumbling through darkness, but our direct ancestors, possessing minds identical to ours, hearts that beat with the same hopes and fears, hands capable of creating art that still moves us 10,000 years later. They survived ice ages and droughts, predators and diseases, not through luck, but through intelligence, cooperation, and an intimacy with the natural world that we've traded for convenience and comfort. Their legacy lives in your DNA, in the restless curiosity that drives exploration, in the bonds that form when people face hardship together, in the satisfaction of creating something useful with your own hands. Every time you feel drawn to wilderness, every moment you find peace under starlight, every instinct that whispers warnings about danger or promises about weather, you're hearing voices from that ancient world. Perhaps tonight, as you settle into your bed with its soft mattress and warm blankets, you'll remember what sleep meant to them, earned through exhaustion, guarded against predators, shared with companions whose breath in the darkness meant you weren't alone in a dangerous world. The cities would come eventually, bringing walls and laws, writing and warfare progress, and problems they could never have imagined. But before all of that, there was this, humans being human in the purest sense, surviving, creating, loving, dreaming under skies that still shine above us today. Sweet dreams.